Welcome to G for G on YouTube. I am your host, Napalm Dawn, and today we're taking a look at some Ultimate Marvel Avengers Alliance footage from Jim Sterling. This is his Jimpressions video on it, and I'm using the footage of this from him and one other person depending upon the time of the video, mostly because I don't have a way of getting my own Switch footage for it. I don't have a capture card, so I've got no way of hooking the Switch up to something where I can record the video. I happened to mention it to fellow YouTuber and friend Twig, and he's like, oh, just set up a camera, on a tripod. That just seemed a little bit dinky, so I'm going to go with Jim Sterling's footage. Credit to him. A link to his video will be in the description because he brings up some points that my own review of the game is going to kind of refute a little bit. So Jim is actually not the fondest of the game, and some of what he considers a major detracting factor of the game is something that I am tolerating it, but do agree that it is a obvious issue. So his biggest gripe with the game is that he's trying to like the game and he wants to like it, but that the biggest problem is that a lot of the rank and file mobs in this, the just general grunts, kind of don't make you feel like a quote-unquote superhero or, supervillain or anti-hero. They don't make you feel powerful because they just tend to blast the shit out of you no matter what exactly it is that you are doing. And they kind of go through that as if there isn't a stagger protection on you. Now, I will say that it is something that I did happen to believe when I've been playing the game over here. Before I get into kind of talking about what he's saying about the game and my opinions on it, I just wanted to give out some of my opinions first, and then we'll come back to it. So UMA 3 is a game that as a day goes by, I want to come home and play. If I'm at work, I want to come back and play it, and if I'm at home, I want to find a way of playing it or doing some double attention where I might be doing something on my PC but then have the Switch near me and play it on breaks and just pause it or turn the Switch off briefly, go back to what I'm doing, come back to this. I haven't played it big screen that much. I would say a good 95% of the time I'm actually playing it on handheld mode around the house, and I think that perhaps would solve one of my gripes with the issue. So one of my gripes with the game is that when you can see here that he's playing Spider-Gwen, and you can tell that because the red ring is under him, which means that's me. Now he's playing Deadpool. Again, that means that's you. That's the one you're in charge of. So if you're playing with AI, that's how you differentiate who you are controlling. Now, one of the biggest problems is when you are playing a reddish character or a darker character and then you have that red reticle under you and you are in handheld mode, you often lose yourself in the action, especially against the hand. There are several missions where you fight the hand ninja grunts and the hand, I guess you could call elites, like this sentinel over here. It has a stagger bar, so we'll call that an elite. You lose yourself. You don't know where you are in it because the camera, and this is something that at least in the part of the video that Jim Sterling did, I haven't heard him mention it yet. He doesn't seem to harp on it. My biggest issue is the camera. One of your control sticks does control it, but there are certain levels where you are very zoomed out to take in all the action. You are maybe like side-scrolling on it. With the red reticle and a lot of red on the screen, like the hand or Elektra, and the camera, you just often lose yourself, and you're like, where the fuck am I on the screen? And sometimes you just want to do an ability or jump, and as a spider, like Spider-Man, Spider-Gwen, Venom, etc., it's easy to kind of find out where you are, because the jump you start web swinging. If you hold down the jump, you start web swinging across the ceiling. If you're a flyer, you will fly. If you're a very big character, you'll get a jump, but not a double jump. So if you're Hulk, you can figure out where you are. Or Venom, you just jump up and you're like, oh, all right, I'm over in the upper left. That's my big gripe, is the camera really, really fights you. And there are several levels where the camera is just absolute trash. Um, and it's really, really hard to figure out what's going on. Now, you'll see here in this footage, he's got online co-op going on over here, and he states, I feel that this was mostly made for couch co-op, because the online co-op is laggy as hell, and his footage does seem to back that up, because you'll notice that the other characters are very choppy. It's almost like everybody has really garbage ping of like 150 plus. Like, you could see it on the Spider-Man in the previous footage, and over here, Miss Marvel Kamala Khan is looking pretty shaky. The Spider-Man down in the lower right, who just web swung across the screen, I mean, you could, it's a slideshow. That, yeah, that's not good. One of the other things that I have an issue with is that when a AI member activates a synergy move, which is when the AI uses an ability that your abilities can double up with, triple up with, whatever, you hear a and you have like a line going, and there, Crystal's doing it, and Deadpool just did it. There was a line from Crystal to Deadpool, because like, hey, if you hit A, you'll activate a synergy and your move will combine with mine. That often occurs when you're in the middle of literally doing 80 different things, and it's so hard to get that done because you're in the middle of a jump, you've just dodged, you are in the middle of a slow animation for your heavy attack. Like, I feel that the window for synergy attacks when you go off of the AI is just ridiculously quick. Like, I'm really surprised in Jim's footage. He seems to be able to pull it off quite frequently. And here you can see Spider-Gwen's trying to activate the defenses in the Avengers Tower for that mission. An Ultron bot comes up and smacks her, and that actually disproves his theory. So he's like, generic mobs come and knock you out of stuff. So she gets knocked out there, and she lives through and activates through this. So that sort of disproves his opinion that you just constantly get buffeted around by the little scrubs, and that it's unfair. To be honest, I think if you approach this game with a little bit more of like a Sekiro, Bloodborne, Dark Souls mindset than just a straight up like Diablo ARPG mindset, you will probably do a little bit better. Like, blocking is weird because it seems like when you long press the block button, you almost always get the dodge anyway, and then you go into a blocking. If you use the benefits of a spider character, like the web jumps that you just saw Spider-Gwen doing, that's definitely a good way to avoid it. Your heavy attack, if it has an aerial component to it, like a lot of the spiders do, that's a good way of avoiding attacks. And honestly, just dodging. If you know what it's like to be a defensive driver, and you approach this game as being a defensive player, like dodging behind the mobs, predicting that they'll attack, and then getting their back, you will be better at this. Now, unfortunately, sometimes some of your just generic moves will push you through the center point of the character, and then you are getting hit. So if you're, let's say, Spider-Man, and you're behind a character who's firing laser blasts to the right of the screen, and you're behind him on the left, and you're attacking, there is the possibility you will attack your way into the center of the character, considered where the laser blasts are coming from, and then you take some damage. But here, like, this is a good example. These throws are mechanics that help you deal with the boss. He says that the bosses don't feel nearly as bad because they just don't seem to do cheap shit on you all the time. Like the mobs that just basically like track you through everything and constantly pummel you. I will say that his complaint about it isn't the most fair. It is and it isn't. And it's a double-edged sword. And here's what I mean. If the mobs constantly focus you all the time and ignore your compatriots over here, your AI or your friends, yeah, that's a problem because then you never get to do anything. You never get to pick up the goblin grenade and throw it because you're getting shot, or you never get to activate the Avengers Tower thing and everything like that. However, it also has the benefit of you sort of being in control of the action. If they're focused on you and you consider the AI stupid, that means you are kind of in charge of the fight. In reality, it needs to be a little bit more balanced between the two. They need to focus on you a little bit less, but not to the point that you're spending 10 seconds activating the Avengers Tower defenses and you look behind you and you have to res everybody because they're all dead. It doesn't need to be as tweaked as much as Jim says, but it does need to be tweaked somewhere in the middle. Like general AI grunts, the ones without the stagger meters, do perhaps need to balance some more aggression to the AI rather than going to you all the time, because you're the one who has to activate things on the map, you know, activatables, clickables, however you want to put it. And if they're constantly shooting you, yeah, you're going to have a tough time of it. But by the same token, you don't want to sit there and have everybody dying while you're busy. So that was Jim's footage. This is going to be footage from the Rad Brad over here. This will take us back to the beginning of the game. One of the things that I think Jim didn't consider is the fact that you have ISOs that help you negate a lot of the problems that you have in the game. Now, one of my biggest shortcomings of the game is that when I get to a shield point, you know, my hit points go back up, my energy bars go back up, and I just keep going. In reality, I need to look at the shield points or the save points, quote unquote, more like when you go to an inn in an RPG, or you go to a town after being out in the world slogging it about for a bit. You need to go into your team and assign ISOs. Maybe you have a weaker member of the team with you. Give them the level up chips and everything like that. Like, level up your abilities. Like here, Spider-Man just did like a web shot, and there's another ability usage over there. Level them up if you have the AP. Assign appropriate ISO that fits with the character. Like, my Spider-Man right now is walking around with an ISO that says my light attacks do 8% more damage. Fucking why not? It's Spider-Man. He's not a heavy Hulk hitter. He's light pepper, constant pressure from his attacks, lots of light attacks, get out of the way, start the light attacks again. It seems to make sense. What maybe Jim is missing is the fact that you have ISOs that reduce the chance that you will get staggered. If you've got a character who you think is just getting staggered way too much, fix it. Use the ISO. He has a point in that, like, why would Hulk and Venom be so easily buffeted about like tissue paper? Like Spider-Man, yeah, you know, a reasonable shot, maybe it's going to knock him off a balance, but like, why Hulk? I mean, if you played Juggernaut in the Marvel vs. Capcom games, he walks through things, he still takes the damage, but he has no stagger whatsoever, so he just keeps plowing through things. And even I think the Hulk did, like when he was doing his Gamma Charge and stuff like that, he eats the damage, but he walks through it because he's a big, huge, hulking monstrosity. And same thing for Juggernaut. It makes sense. And I get that point of it, but I think Jim is just making a little bit too big of a to-do about it over there. And I think it really isn't quite the issue that he thinks it is. I've had a lot of fun with the game so far. I'm up to the X-Men mission. A lot of what I've been doing, so for several levels, the team that I've been running was all Spiders: Venom, Spider-Man, Miles, and Spider-Gwen. I predominantly am in control of Spider-Man, occasionally Venom. Not really Morales so much, not really Miles. That whole, like, I was accidentally on him. I was like, whoa, that's not my ability. Oh, that's because I'm piloting Miles. Spider-Gwen is also pretty fun. I like people who have a reasonable button press from light attacks into the combo with the heavy attack, and Spider-Man does it for me. It's like light, 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 like 4 lights, and then he finishes off with the web swing, which is his heavy attack, and it makes sense to me. I can rely on it to get danger. It fits what my muscle memory wants out of light attacks comboing into heavy. Some people do better with like light, light, heavy, 1, 2, and when you sort of get into button spamming moments, a 1, 2, and then a heavy doesn't fit. You're like, it's too early to opt out of the light attacks and then go to the heavy. And I don't do as well with characters like that. The flyers I tend to like because they just fly over a lot of the mechanics in the game. The spiders are good because web swinging isn't flying, but it does keep you up there for a bit. So here in this fight with Venom, Venom basically envelops Electro after he's down, and you sort of fight an electrified Venom, and the goal is to basically that when he goes up and he slams back down, that you're hanging out by these exposed electrical wires. So here's a revive. Now, if you get about like 50% through the revive and then you're staggered and you go back, you don't start the revive all the way again from 0. You do have some progress. So here, well, the target was off, but if he had targeted Hulk properly, he would have landed on the exposed electrical wiring and would have been shocked and stunned. What I like to do for boss stuns is that I'll whittle them down until the purple bar goes into stun, and then I'll hit the 4-way alliance ability, and essentially that's like a bloodlust in World of Warcraft. You just take advantage of the stun, dump a lot of damage on them. This over here seems to be an excessive amount of damage to the characters, which is a little bit surprising. Like, I didn't have any issue with this mission whatsoever. Oh, he's really, yeah, he's fucking that up. He's just prolonging this fight a little bit. So I was running the spiders for a bit, and then since I'm at the I'm at the X-Men mansion over here, I'm now running a mutant team, which is Wolverine, Psylocke, Nightcrawler, who I just got from the cutscene, and then I'm throwing in Spider-Man to it. And I'm like, hey, you know, thematically, this kind of fits that I have a heavy Marvel X-Men team going through instead of like a Guardians of the Galaxy team at the X-Men mansion, everything like that. And Nightcrawler and Psylocke all came in at about the level my characters were at. Wolverine was down at 6 when the rest of them were in the low 20s, high teens. So I just used the level up chips on him and got him to about 15. And then he, you know, kind of fits in with the party over there. So it's a fun game, but you have to realize how you can play around some of the game's shortcomings. However, the camera, to me, is definitely one of the biggest turnoffs, and I would think that if I was playing at a level where certain button mashing and maybe not having the strongest synergies, more on that in a moment, would cripple me, and that I really had to rely... Oh, that was a waste of an ability. Oh, that was not bright at all. Well, somewhat worked. If I was on a level where I really had to be top skill, and that was the only thing that was going to get me through the level, the camera would probably be able to do me in to the point where it'd be really, really rough. As it is now, playing on a more button mashy level and being not under-leveled for the content, it's easier to keep up and kind of just work your way through the camera, but it's definitely cost me at times. And one of my favorite ones so far has been the Infinity Rift against Elektra, because you don't have to worry about your health on that one so much. Doing damage to the mobs there regenerates health. Essentially, you're given like a leech passive when you're doing it, and as long as you're on the offensive, you're regaining health, and it's good. But again, it's another one of those levels where everything is red. Your reticle is red. If you're playing Spider-Man, you're red. You can't see yourself, at least in Switch mode, amongst all of the stuff. It may be better if you're playing it on the big screen TV and things are at a more spaced out resolution, but um, to me, the game is a lot of fun. I really didn't play a lot of 1 and 2. At the time, I wasn't that into the Marvel universe, not on purpose or anything. I just hadn't been playing a lot of Marvel games, so when they came out, they didn't make an impact with me. And then after playing Marvel Avengers Alliance and really getting in with a lot of Marvel's fans, I heard a lot of good words about those games. So I picked up 1 and 2 from my 360 and played about maybe 10 minutes of one of them, where I think it's on like an oil rig or something very metallic that's falling apart, and I think Thor was part of it in the beginning. And I maybe got through about 10 minutes of it, and I was like, I want to play Borderlands 2, and I just didn't follow through. This version of the game, UMA 3, I definitely like. I recommend. If you don't have a Switch, get a Switch, play this game. It's only going to get better from where I've got the game to right now. Still haven't really even gone up against Thanos or any of the Black Order yet. It has mutants, which, yay, mutants included in the game. That's great. That's always a big factor for me. And I really do want to play the game. I want to do it while doing other things. I want to come home from work or being out and pick it up and play it. And maybe I just need to give it a little bit more time on the big screen to see if it fixes the issues that I have with the cameras. But it's been a lot of fun. I really do like the game. I really recommend it. A lot of fun characters. The Infinity Rifts, finding them and then going into them is fun. I wiped... So, synergy. What I said before, I was going to come back to it. Your team has synergy. So you may have... And it's similar to what you would have gotten in Marvel Avengers Alliance of like Debbie Downer, smartest man in the room, bearded people, whatever. You get that by forming a team of characters who definitely have a theme. Like this one on screen is mostly Avengers. So you get some bonuses to damage and hit points and everything by having people that obviously seem like they go together, like the Defenders or the Avengers or the X-Men, Women of Marvel, Agile Fighters. So build a team around that, because the first time I did the kill 100 Kree on the ship, I started getting tested around the mid-50s, low 60s, and I was like, ooh, this is starting to get a little dicey here. And I wiped on it. The second time I did the Kree 100 minions on the ship mission, I ran... I don't think it was all Guardians. I think it was my Spider team, which has a lot of synergy on it. Didn't have ISOs on the people at the time. It's early on in the game. They weren't very customized. When I did the Spider team, I got into the mid to upper 80s out of the 100 before I started feeling like, all right, I just got to watch myself over here. Got to do this with skill, not button mashing. So build your teams around that. Sure, maybe you're going to want to build a team around your ultimate favorites, but if they don't have synergy, you're going to cripple yourself a little bit, and you're going to lose out on some really good advantages. I mean, my idea is that if you have at least 2 people on the team that you really like, especially if they're different, like here, Spider-Man and Hulk, very different in the way they play. If you like Hulk and you like Spider-Man and they do different things for the team, throw them on there and then make the other 2 people about synergy. Consider them buff sticks, as it were. You don't have to switch to them and use them if you don't want to. Make them there just to buff the team with synergy, and then use 2 of the people that you want. So let's say you really liked Star-Lord, but you didn't like the rest of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Make a Defenders team with Star-Lord and get those bonuses. Here, on this Alliance chart over here, this is like a Diablo or Path of Exile style level up system. Do yourself a favor and go to the upper left over there and unlock the blue hexagram, and then go through the blue and unlock that center point, which is an experience up. This was always a big thing in Marvel Heroes, is that you wanted to level characters that when they got to 50 and 60, you activate their synergy system and they are a plus percentage to experience for the rest of your characters. So it just makes leveling easy. So just cut up to that upper left, that blue area, and don't go around this hexagram that much. Do maybe one or two that you want, but cut into that blue area and get yourself the experience so that when you take a level 6 Wolverine with a bunch of level 20 people, it doesn't take that much to catch him up if you're out of chips or whatever. So that's my take on the game. The videos used here I will link in the description. And, you know, check out Jim's video if you want an opinion that's a little bit more negative than mine. He really does harp on the stagger and the poise a lot. My big thing is the camera. I think the camera really fights you badly in this game, but not to the point where it has detracted me from really wanting to spend a lot of my day playing this game. So, hope you enjoyed the video, folks. Have a good one.